Alright, so welcome to another episode of Get Real. We are Famicom Flashbacks. I'm Brandon.
I'm Matt.
bit.Girl.
And we are here today to talk about a little movie, just a little movie called The Hobbit. And you might be asking yourself, why would a gaming show be talking about the movie Hobbit? And maybe Matt, maybe you could kind of tell us a little bit, why do you think, being gamers, we got so into The Hobbit?
Well, without Tolkien, he set the stage basically for the whole fantasy universe for all these games that we know and love today. Video games, tabletop, I mean, it's just, his influence is so strong in almost everything in the fantasy genre for gaming.
Really, there's a lot of these fantasy elements that he came up with that, again, video games have definitely utilized over the years.
Creatures, languages, places.
In a lot of ways, it's almost amazing it's taken as long as it has for you to create movies based off of these franchises and stuff. But in the other sense, it's really and truly an impossible task to take those movies and turn them into films. I mean, obviously Peter Jackson did an amazing job with the Lord of the Rings trilogy, and today we're really going to discuss how we thought that The Hobbit fared in that kind of trilogy. So I guess we'll get right into it. Let's get real. Essentially, not to go into too much of a spoiler, but the beginning of the movie Hobbit really takes you back into the Lord of the Rings trilogy.
Yes.
It doesn't start off right in the book. Right. It starts off in some of the scenes that you saw from Lord of the Rings, which I thought was really intelligent.
It was great. It just took me back to when I first saw it, and I was just like, oh, that's where he was during this part, and it's just, I love that kind of stuff.
It was a way to tie the movies together.
Yeah. But as I watched it, I was thinking to myself, if you haven't seen the other movies, you'll just like, what the heck is? It'd be the most weird, wonky beginning to a movie if you haven't seen the other Lord of the Rings movies. But if you haven't seen the other Lord of the Rings movies,
there's something wrong with you.
That's your own fault. Yeah. Deal with it. I don't have time for your complaints.
Next question.
Yeah.
Moving on.
But there was a really cool transition, again, not to get too much into it, where you go from the old Bilbo smoking, hands off back to the younger Bilbo smoking, and I thought that sets it up really well. The best thing that this movie did was the characterizations of these separate characters. Sure, there's a lot of dwarfs, and some of them could use a little more time, but there was a lot of characters that get no time in Lord of the Rings. His work, there are certain just throwaway characters in the Lord of the Rings that you love, but there's not a lot of information. Right. For example, bit.Girl, Radagast.
Oh my gosh, my new favorite character in the books.
Who, by the way, in the books, Radagast is a wizard. He's Radagast the Brown.
Yeah.
And there's maybe in the books, maybe like...
Very small character.
Maybe like a few dozen words said about.
But
I mean, he plays an important part, but...
They really elaborated on it, and I'm an animal lover, and so that's what his character is. That's what...
He wasn't a character they had to put in there. They chose to put him in there.
But I think they wanted to tie in for Mirkwood and all that kind of stuff.
Right.
And he kind of set the pace with the spires and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So they're kind of, I think that's how they're kind of tying. I thought it was really, I just thought it was really good.
It was a smart choice because they're establishing very important plot points for the next couple films. Talk about a cool wizard design and cool, kind of grotesque. I mean, he was a little gross.
Yeah.
He has birds living in his hair, and just bird crap just coming down the side of his face and to his beard.
Definitely lives in nature.
Yeah, we actually get to see scenes of the White Council, which is not in the book The Hobbit. We know that Gandalf leaves to join the White Council, which is essentially Elrond, Galadriel, and Saruman and Gandalf.
That's a cool collection of characters right there.
Oh, yeah.
It's
just want to be at that meeting.
Yeah.
It's just cool to see a character that you know from the other trilogy as being evil, and then him coming over and being himself, being before he was turned. Yeah. It's just really cool how much more focused and he is. I just thought it was just so well done. I was very pleased with how they brought them in.
It was cool to see them.
Yeah, it was.
It's like familiar friend.
Right. So that was pretty cool that you got to see that stuff that wasn't in The Hobbit. Also, interesting, the Pale Orc, Azog. Awesome.
Was that in the book?
So well designed.
Well, see, that's the thing. Well, first of all, let's talk about the design.
Okay.
We know when this movie was first getting put together, the idea was that Guillermo del Toro was going to direct the films. and eventually he had to pass and basically help produce the film. Some of his stuff, some of the visuals that you know it comes from his brain, totally his style.
He's
still
very
show
stylized.
up in the movie, especially like the goblins.
Yeah.
Very stylized, even more so. You know, you think of Lord of the Rings, those films are heavily stylized.
Yeah.
You know, down to little minute details, armors and stuff like that. And I feel like with The Hobbit, they even added to that.
I feel that these goblins and orcs, they had more facial features. Like they didn't all look the same. Like okay, these are all actually individual creatures and not just an army of clones. You know, they each had their own.
Yes,
kind of
and as scary as everything was throughout Lord of the Rings, these ones were even scarier.
Yeah.
A little bit goofy at times.
Yeah.
But the look of everything was, I think, may have surpassed even Lord of the Rings, the movies. Just the look of these characters is just
Well, they kicked it up. They did.
Yeah.
They did.
But I was going to say, Azog, the pale orc, is not actually a character in The Hobbit, and he actually, you get to see this huge scene between the dwarfs and the orcs and the goblins fighting outside the Misty Mountains.
Yeah.
And in that battle, that's essentially the pale orc is supposed to die during that battle, and all the dwarfs think he does.
Yeah.
But in the movie, he actually goes on. It was interesting that they kept him, but I think it's going to pan out because I think, you know, talking about other prequels, you look at like the Star Wars prequels. What did the Star Wars prequel lack? And that was a main villain that kind of showed throughout. I mean, obviously you had, you know, the Emperor, but he never really was like a threat until towards the end, where it was like everything, all his plans came together.
Right.
With these films, I think they wanted to have somebody who was like, this will be the villain that carries throughout the other ones. You know, I approve of that change.
Yeah.
So if you want to write that down, approve. Approve.
Yeah, I mean, if they had just brought him in, they're just like, okay, he's gonna do this, do that. But the fact that there's so much fighting involved with them, which I'm a huge fan of battle scenes. You just throw battle scenes in, I'm gonna love the movie.
Right.
But Jackson does it so well, and there's not just little small battles. Every single one is epic.
Yeah.
You know, and everyone is involved, and there's always some like tense moment where you think somebody is gonna meet their demise. You know, and
it needed it. The fact of the matter is, as a movie, it needed it.
Yeah.
Because, you know, you don't have a lot of like battle scenes throughout The Hobbit, especially at the beginning.
Right.
So my main concern was this movie was not going to be able to be interesting enough because of the fact there wasn't going to be any action. But to show the battle, to reference the battle between the goblins and the dwarfs, they showed all that stuff. You know, just like in the original Lord of the Rings movie, The Fellowship, they showed all those battle stuff, the early battles with Sauron and stuff like that.
Yeah.
It was really smart to reference that stuff because it gave you those action scenes that you need in a movie.
Yeah.
That people are going to pay the $8 to see the movie for. You know.
$8, that's a bargain. $8.
Yeah, oh yeah. and it's great too because I mean, when you have a cast as large as this, it's hard to give each character their own moment. You know, but when they're escaping from the goblins and they're all fighting along the bridges, each of them had their moment to showcase their fighting style.
Yeah.
And each of them has their own unique weapon choice and everything. And just even if it was like a quick 5-10 second clip, it just each of them got their moment. And I thought that was just because that's hard to do when you're trying to put all this in a movie. It's like, okay, I got 13 people here. I need to. I need to have them fight. Even the guy with had the slingshot. He got his moment. He's a weak guy, but he had multiple moments where he took people out, and that was just great.
And we'll talk a little bit more about the characters in just a moment. Before I do, I want to ask Matt, what do you think about the dwarfs' fighting style? A little bit drunken master, don't you think?
Yes.
They're clumsy.
Yeah, they are clumsy, but especially the
It's comical though. It works out.
The guy, I can't think of what dwarf it is, but he has a long staff. And that's all it is. And in the fight scene, he was twirling it like over his head and stuff like that. That is so drunken master right there.
Oh yeah, and the ladder scene. There's a ladder scene where they're fighting with this ladder.
Yeah. I mean, they're using anything from the environment to their advantage.
Yeah.
It's just it was great.
Thorn was awesome.
Thorn. And the fact that they told you how he got his shield, that was brilliant.
You want to tell us a little bit more about that?
Oh, when he's fighting Azog,
yeah.
He's he gets his shield knocked away, and the only thing he could find was a piece of oak that had a little handle on it, and he held it up, kind of like a talon and stuff like that. And he was just getting wailed on by Azog, and his shield wasn't taking any damage, and it was just so cool. And from now on, he had it fashioned into a shield over like his bracer that took up his arm. And ever since then, he was just known as Oaken Shield.
Yeah, that's his nickname.
He was able to fend him off, and cut off his arm, similar to the guy in Fellowship who cut off Sauron's hand and the ring and stuff like that.
It was. I think they really did him justice as far as character. I mean,
and the character. I mean, who they chose to do him, I thought did an amazing, a really deep, stout voice. I mean, just I think just a great commander, and just wants to get his home back. You can just tell he's just so passionate about his mission and stuff like that.
What'd you guys think of the Great Goblin, the main Goblin King?
He was very cartoony, because I guess in his features.
Comical.
He wanted to be a Jabba the Hutt.
So large and jiggly.
I mean, he was gross.
Huge chin.
He was disgusting,
Yeah.
which is what the Great Goblin should be. Totally disgusting.
Yeah.
But what do you guys think about the CG in this movie? The amount of CG characters. What are your thoughts on that?
I really didn't mind it. I mean, I really didn't. I mean, it's hard. I can see to where the task of getting that many people in makeup to do that kind of stuff.
True, but we're talking close-ups in this one. A lot of close-ups of CG characters.
I'd say it was pretty believable, though. I mean,
Yeah.
he did a really good job.
Yeah.
I didn't notice that. But
Yeah.
And really that's the goal, isn't it?
Yeah.
The fact that these are CG, these are essentially animated characters, and you just believe it. Yeah. And it looked good too, even like when there was battle sequences when the Great Goblin gets taken out. It's kind of goofy. Oh, there's one scene. Remember the one scene where Gandalf takes off an orc's head at one point. The orc, or a goblin. It wasn't an orc. It was a goblin. And he's essentially still like his brain's still working. He's like and then you get a back behind scene and just kind of like like a cork off a bottle. Yeah. There goes the head that rolls off.
Gandalf was a badass.
No, he was awesome.
I mean, he used more magic in this than in all the other movies combined.
And I think fighting-wise, I think he did.
He stepped it up.
I think the fighting scenes. I mean, you got to imagine. Ian McKellen has aged a bit since the Lord of the Rings movies, and the fact that he was able to, as a character, step up and really.
Anybody who can wield a sword and a staff and do what
he
does is just. It makes me want to take my clothes off.
But I have to say that my favorite scene with him in it was when in the beginning with Bilbo, and he's saying. I don't know what he was doing, but he's trying to get him on board for all this, and he puts the mark on the door, and he's just like,
I love
he just does whatever he wants anyway.
Yeah, he does. Yeah.
He doesn't care what you say. If you say you're going to do it or not, no.
And Andy Serkis as Gollum, which I think was just as important as Gandalf, especially since Gollum really will only show up in this film. He's not going to show up in the other two, I don't think, unless they got some sort of trick up his sleeve.
Gollum was way too cute.
I would agree with that.
Big, pretty eyes, and he was kind of was sweet, really. And I just don't think that's how he was supposed to be in the Riddles part.
No. Riddles in the Dark is
I just
probably,
assumed it would be darker and creepier, and it just was like, oh, there's Gollum, and he's so cute.
It's probably the most important chapter in any Lord of the Rings book. Any of these books is.
I mean,
is the Riddles.
that is when it happened.
Yeah.
That is what changes everything.
Yeah, Bilbo finds the ring.
That's what builds all the rest of the books, movies, and it was just kind of quaint and cutesy.
Right. And I remember when I went through and actually read this, and for the first time when I read this book, and I got to Riddles in the Dark. Riddles in the Dark is, if you want to read something on Halloween, if you want a creepy section of a book, Riddles in the Dark is very creepy, and I'm going to be honest, this is just my opinion. In the movie, I'm not sure they did that particular section, the most important, part of the Lord of the Rings, as much justice as I wish they had. Maybe extended edition?
Yeah.
We get a little more?
So that's what I say,
maybe, but I mean, it's already, that scene is already set. You're not going to go from, like Big was saying, that it was very lighthearted, and cute, to all of a sudden it's going to change just to a dark setting. You're going to lose the audience in that.
It's true.
So it's already, I mean, they might throw some more riddles or something in there, but the scene is already set and in your brain. You're not going to do that.
Yeah, in the book, Bilbo's really wandering in the dark. He cannot see a thing. The only thing he can give him a little bit of light is his sword, because he's in close enough proximity to the goblins that he can get a little bit of light. But in the book, all you really see of Gollum, which this is what makes Gollum so freaky in The Hobbit, is the glare eye. You get a little bit of it at the beginning when you first introduce you. But you know, I feel like maybe it was because of the fact that Andy Serkis came back. They wanted to have some more shots of Gollum.
I'm sure that's what it is.
But man, you know, that's supposed to be a creepy section, and I want to see just faint hints of Gollum's figure. I want to be in the dark as much as Bilbo is. It's supposed to be freaky.
Yeah.
Yeah, like kind of not knowing what's there.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, he really in the book when Bilbo finds the ring, he's just lying on the ground and he just happens his hand. It's all chance. I mean, this is what the Lord of the Rings books are almost all about.
Yeah.
It's just chance, you know. And this is what changes everything. You know, is Bilbo finding that ring, and not only that. But they played that scene up against the dwarfs battling the goblins.
Yeah.
So, you know, the most important section of all Lord of the Rings, the most important thing that happens in all the Lord of the Rings is played up against, you know, parallel to an action sequence.
Yeah.
Which I almost felt took a little bit away from it.
No, I can see that. I mean, you're trying to get into this battle of wits that these characters are trying to have, and then you're thrown into a combat sequence where it's just like, I don't have to think. I'm just going to watch people get thrown.
Yeah, and the combat scene was amazing. So
Yeah.
So I think all in all, it was an enjoyable film. I mean, I would definitely recommend it. So I guess that leads us into it. What do you guys think? One up, one down? Let's start with bit.Girl on this one. One up, one down, and why?
You know, one up for me, and this is the thing, I have a hard time sitting through long movies, and this one I had no problem. I was very involved, and when we hit the end of it, I'm like, it's over? I enjoyed the characters. I really, like I said, my new favorite is Radagast. Really thought he was a cool addition to the story.
Mm-hmm.
So I feel bad that I have to wait so long for the next one.
Yeah.
Because, you know, you're ready to
Well,
get
we did
into
this
the
once
story.
before.
Yes, we
Yes,
can do it again.
There's a certain anticipation waiting for the DVD come out. Maybe they'll make us wait a little bit longer for the extended edition like they did the first round.
I know.
And then seeing those first trailers on the DVDs for the following movie. I mean, you know, it's a time. I remember the Lord of the Rings because it was an era of my life.
It was exciting.
It was a couple years where it was like, here's what we're waiting for, you know.
Yeah, it really was.
Yeah, no, it was exciting. It was exciting, so I'm really looking forward to it. Matt, one up, one down.
Oh, one up, absolutely. I mean, the undertaking that they took, taking The Hobbit and putting it into a film, I feel they did such a fantastic job. And if you're a fan of The Hobbit and Lord of the Rings in general, you're going to enjoy this movie.
Yeah.
I mean, it has, with the exception of the thing they've done a little better, it has pretty much everything that you want to see from the first part of this trilogy. It sucks you in and it leaves you just wanting more. And I want to leave a movie feeling like, oh, this isn't done yet. The best is yet to come. And I just thought it captured that feeling perfectly.
Yeah, and I have to say that the same for me. I mean, you know, this is not going to be the best of the Lord of the Rings films or the Lord of the Rings franchise of films. It's just not. But you know, it's probably going to be one of the more fan-pleasing films, just because of the fact it was like, here's your characters again.
Well, yeah, the fact that they actually made it, that they actually are going back and making it is just like, I think when you can go back to when you first heard that they were making it, how excited you are to know
the fact that it almost
that it was
didn't
coming
get
back.
made.
Yeah.
You know, it just
multiple
times
it
down,
had some,
you know.
Just like Lord of the Rings, it almost didn't get made multiple times.
Yeah.
Yeah, the fact that it worked out was.
And they brought back your, like you said, Ian McKellen, and
yeah, I mean everybody.
They could have recast it and they didn't.
Yeah.
And Howard Shore does the score, right?
Oh my God.
Yeah, I mean we
didn't even talk about that.
Yeah, I mean the Misty Mountain song.
It
gives you goosebumps.
It definitely could be the best of the score so far, without a doubt. I mean, I love the Two Towers score because the Riders of Rohan. I always like that bum 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 bum.
Yeah.
But the Misty Mountain theme.
Just how they did it. I mean, it was just, you know, Bilbo's just listening, and it's a slow pan. The room is kind of darkness with candles, and it's just you just see Thorin, and they just start singing. And you're just like, oh man, like these guys are just so passionate, you know, and it's just
which
such an amazing.
Did a lot of justice. I mean, if you know anything about Lord of the Rings, you know there's music in the books.
Yeah.
And we have a little funny moment when we're in the movie because the girl behind us, she goes, There was a lot of music in that film.
You guys like, well, it felt like a musical.
It felt like a musical. There were like 3 songs, 4 at the most.
Or if you read The Hobbit, if they didn't have that in there,
dude.
that was one of the biggest things that I wanted them to bring in The Hobbit is please keep the musical number.
Yeah.
You know, do it.
That's a Bilbo Baggins hates.
Yeah, and they put them all in there, and they were all so well done. You know, I couldn't have been happier with how they did that.
Yeah, the music was one of the strongest parts of the film. Without doubt.
Absolutely.
So I think we all agree 3 1-ups. I'm a 1-up. 3 1-ups. Definitely worth seeing. Worth your time. And it's got a vote.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, yeah.
So go see it.
So, and also, you know, read the book.
Yeah, definitely.
Why not?
Great book.
Yeah. So we want to go ahead and just thank the folks at the BART once again for allowing us to come back here and do some filming. If you're in the Orlando area and you want to get some serious retro arcade games played,
Oh yeah.
Craft beer.
artwork, definitely check out the BART because it's worth your time. It's an Orlando must.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Absolutely. And if you liked our video, go ahead and subscribe to our channel. Make sure you check out some of our other videos because I find them entertaining.
I do too.
Oh, yeah.
I sit alone in a room.
No, stop. Just
I sit alone in the
Just
cave
stop.
in the misty. I sit alone in the cave in the misty mountains and watch them all day. You don't get good.
Do you hum that? Do you hum
And I'm in the dark
song
feeding
your
him
head?
riddles. So
Yeah.
there you
The
go.
Wi-Fi is really bad in there. That's why you know. That's why Coleman's so skinny. He's just like one of those skinny computer hacker nerds. He's like,
Oh my gosh. I want to look up pictures of my precious.
but yeah, no. Wow. Anyone who was going to subscribe to our channel. Oh yeah. But right about to push the button. And
Holding the power button on their computer.
But yeah,
throwing it out the window.
check out our other videos. Check us out on Facebook, Twitter. You know, give us some love. Continue the conversation.
Yeah, definitely.
And keep retro gaming alive.
Boop, boop.